We had an exceptional week last week. Really enjoyed our elementary kid game on Tuesday, all the screaming kids, and being able to play McMurray, playing against Laura Lange that played for me years ago. She was a stud, by the way. We had the greatest post tandem you can imagine with Kendra Whitehead and Laura Lange on the court at the same time. So that was really fun. Everybody played, quality minutes for us, and then had ample time to prepare for the East Texas A&M game. Really pleased with how our players prepared for that game and showed up for it. And about half your games are on the road neutral sites, and so you have to figure out how to play well when you leave town. And we came home with a lot of positives from the game.
And one of the positives is 2 players picked up double doubles in Meredith and Aaron. Talk about the effort that you're seeing from players like that when it comes to not just scoring the ball, but also the other things.
Yeah, and Meredith and Aaron, they'll both tell you, my teammates have to get the ball to me for me to score, but they're going and getting those boards on their own. Like, they're just junkyard dog, get after rebounds. We've talked a lot to our guards this year about, Bella Earl for the last 3 seasons was one of the best rebounders on the team. She did that from guard position. We know that helps our team, so we need guards to be consistent about that. And Erin has really understood the assignment. She's been a very consistent rebounder for us, and I was so proud of her getting that double-double. And she's just been relentless going after rebounds. And Meredith has always been a good rebounder as well. And so you get 2 kids with double-digit rebounds, that's a lot of extra possessions for your team.
And it seemed like Erin's rise started a little bit late last season, and it just seems like she hasn't stopped, whether scoring, getting rebounds. How cool is that to see that she's kind of taken over, and you've really seen that potential?
Yeah, Erin got thrust into the starting lineup after we had some injuries last year and really hit her stride. I think we learned a lot about Erin and how she's willing to take on different roles, and she handles pressure well. She's pretty stable for us. She doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I think in her mind, she probably thinks she makes a lot of mistakes because she doesn't want to make mistakes at all. But, she's got a nose for steals. She'll dive on the floor after loose balls. She'll make the extra pass. She's ready to shoot. She's one of the most crafty finishers in the paint that we have. So we're really proud of how she has taken on a role as our everyday starter this year.
And speaking of one of your other starters, Peyton reached 1,000 points this year, 3rd player in I think 4 seasons that's done that. All of them seem to have been homegrown. I know Molly here 4 years, Bella was here for 4 or 5 years. Now Erin, this is your 3rd year. What does that say about this program and the talent that you're able to bring into Abilene and keep here?
Well, in our locker room, there's a big sign that says, "Those who stay will be champions." And obviously, we want to be champions on the court, but we're trying to develop champions off the court as well. And I think that Maddie Miller and Bella Earl are great examples of their entire career. They stayed here and had tremendous careers. And now, in fact, I just saw Bella Earl. She's already taken a teaching job in Austin. She just posted a picture of her little class. They made a sign for her. They're ready for her to get there in January. Maddie Miller's on the staff at Rice, just coaching her heart out. And, they're doing big things. And I do think that they'll be the first to tell you, credit a lot of life lessons they learned in our program. But they also developed. They got as close, I guess, as you can to reaching your potential as a basketball player. And they put in the work. They, give them all the credit. They did a great job just bring in great effort every day. And Peyton's the same way. And Peyton's the fastest player we've had to reach 1,000 points. And she set out 13 games last year. So we were kind of expecting it last year, but excited for her to reach. That's a huge milestone. And I told her, you can reach 2,000. That's only 50 20s, 50 games of 20 points or more. And she'll probably be capable of doing that. She's just such a tremendous scoring threat. So really proud of her for reaching that.
You got a tough test against Texas Tech over in Odessa, so it's a neutral site. But what are you looking for from your team in this matchup, and how can you use this experience down the road, especially kind of when it's March?
Yeah, this is a really interesting week. Texan finals, we're in finals. Our schedule is completely different than it's been the whole year. We just are, trying to put some practices in between finals. Want to give our players plenty of time to be prepared and excel in the classroom and man, going into finals, we have some good grades. I'm really excited about the huge number of A's we have right now just going into finals. And so, prayerful that our players are prepared and that they are able to excel in their finals. But it is a little bit different when you're game prepping, playing a team that's 10-0 on the season. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They've had some role players from last year who are now their main players that have really stepped up, and it seems like they've got a really cohesive group. They have basically a brand new coaching staff. They got Coach Gerlich and Coach DeRue from last year. Everybody else is brand new, and so they've had a lot of changes, and it's paying off for them. They're playing the best basketball I've seen Lady Raiders play in a decade. I mean, they're playing really, really good. And so our prep Thursday, Friday, Saturday, getting ready for that game has got to be really sharp. We've got to understand what are the keys, what are some things that we can do to maybe slow down their point production, how do we take care of the ball against them. And so it'll be a real challenge to get ready for them. It is interesting. We're playing on a neutral site. They're having some type of alumni event, and we are too. We have a little pregame party as well that you can register for, just a get-together lunch at Buffalo Wild Wings in Odessa beforehand. And so, we encourage our fans to all get together and enjoy lunch and then come support us at Odessa College.
And the fact this is your second or third or Power 5 conference game, how does that help prepare you for the WAC tournament and event, and hopefully potentially the NCAA?
Yeah, I think just playing different teams, I think, is awesome, different styles of play. I mean, we're really familiar with Texas Tech's style of play. They have not changed much over the years. But, being in a situation where, you're going in as the David playing the Goliath, I think those are fun situations. And our players did a tremendous job. When we went to North Texas, when we played against Northwestern, they just approached it like any other game, any other team. And I would expect them to do the same thing on Sunday.
Got time for one more question.
Go ahead, man.
I guess just kind of what's your approach to a week where you have no games, finals going on, but still wanting to grow and still get ready for a big couple of games in December?
The first part of the week is just about us. And so, like, today's practice is just going over things that we are still not doing very well in games. We'll have quite a bit of time Tuesday and Wednesday to do, like, individual skill workouts, just, working with individual players. So that's kind of how we approach the beginning of the week. And then the end of the week is more about our scouts. So you don't have a lot of time to just focus on yourself. And so we're going to make the most of the next couple of days. So nobody has asked me, and y'all might not have been aware, but did you know we had no scoreboard at East Texas A&M?
Did not.
There was no scoreboard or shot clock. There was a transmitter that went out about an hour before the game. And so they had a flip card about this big, flipping it. The score was on that.
The AAU days.
It's like the AAU days. There was a fella holding an iPad up like this that had the game clock on it. He was standing right behind the scoreboard or score table. And then they would call out the shot clock 10 seconds. And so, like, our second possession of the game, we get a shot clock violation. We literally release a ball. Dude says 0, and they call it shot clock violation. I mean, it was just crazy. And then the fourth quarter, all of a sudden, magically, everything came on. So it was bizarre. So I think the second quarter was the most discombobulated quarter of all. Just a lot of weird stuff going on. And there were lots of stops in the game because someone, the flip card wasn't correct. And so they had to go back. And, I mean, it was wild. But I think our fans back home were just able to, like, watch the feed on ESPN Plus like normal. But it was the wildest game I've coached in a long time.
Were there
Thank
nets
y'all.
or peach baskets?
Peach baskets. We had a ladder. We had to pull the ladder out.
We good right here?
All right. All right. Just talking about that New Mexico State game, really seemed to gel on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Just talk.
Yeah, I think our last two games have been our two most complete games, in terms of offensive game plan, defensive game plan, the guys executing that. Miss shots, make shots, that comes and goes, right? But we had a plan, obviously. We do every game. And it just kind of depends year to year, like when do those guys really start buying into that. And I think this group has I really saw it this past week, and I think that's why we were successful, playing two teams that we did and bigger conferences and all that good stuff. But, really proud of the guys, man, for how they handled, the game plan, adversity when things weren't working, but sticking to the plan, and believing in what we're doing.
And talking about kind of that buying in, won 4 of your last 5 games. What kind of confidence are you seeing from your team, and how good is that to see with so many new faces that you're seeing that confidence and belief?
Yeah, it hadn't been pretty. Obviously, it never is this time of year, but I think that belief is the most important thing. We talk about it all the time in our meetings, and our team Bible verses, Mark 9:23. All things are possible if you believe, right? And so it's one of those things that we talk about all the time, and I think that these guys are really starting to believe that this is a good team, that we have a good team. And I didn't make anything easy on them this year with the schedule. To be honest with you, probably a little bit unfair to put these guys through this, but they've handled it. They've handled it well. And so, just think that the belief is there, and we've got to make sure we keep that belief, because what's really important is January and February.
And your mindset defensively, I know you're a defensive-minded coach. In fact, you have New Mexico State to, I think, 35% shooting. When they came in, I think the top 10 team in the nation with that. How impressive is that to see so early on?
Really happy, obviously, with how we're playing defensively. I knew this year, we wanted to get better offensively, obviously. And to do that, I knew I was going to have to give a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. And so we have. Our numbers aren't exactly where they've been in the past, totally. But we still want to be good. I told the guys the other day, I don't expect them to be top 10 like we are usually in almost every category, but we should still be good, and we should still be up there. And I think the guys are buying into that. The most important thing is they're playing hard. That's defense. We can spin it however we want, but defense is really just about playing hard. And I think that these guys have really understood and started to buy into the fact that, man, if we play hard, we have a chance.
And I know SIBO, career high for him. How cool is that to see from a guy like that coming in new, being able to have that success?
That's SIBO did really this week what we brought him in here to do. That was hit some shots, of course, but also be a guy that can guard the ball. I think everybody's going to see the scoring. But what's kept SIBO on the floor these last couple games is that he's been able to guard the basketball. We were struggling early, finding a couple guys that could just really stay in front of the basketball, right? And then we brought SIBO here to be one of those guys, and I think he's done that the last couple games, and that's what's kept him on the floor. And the more you're on the floor, the more opportunities you got to shoot, and he's a good shooter, and so the ball's going to go in, But really happy to see him have some success.
Now you have a long break before your next games. How is this break going to kind of help you, and what kind of challenges come with not playing a game for about a week?
Yeah, we just talked about it as a staff. It could be a good thing or a bad thing. I think how we handle it is going to be really important. And so we can't just, okay, hey man, we've won 4 out of 5 or whatever. Let's kick back this week. We can't do that, but we also can't just crush them this week. And so, especially with final exams, and so we're going to kind of do an every other day thing, and we're going to work on us. We're not working on Arizona this week. We are working on us and trying to clean up some stuff that we need to get better at, and try to make sure that we're ready to go for this next little run.
Are you going to be here for next Monday's presser?
That's a good question. I don't know what time we're leaving. We are leaving Monday. I don't know what time.
All right, I'll ask it then. 2 huge tests at number 2 Arizona, number 9 BYU. What are your expectations for this game, facing top 10 opponents, and what is playing top teams in the country do for you?
Well, I think it's a good measuring stick too, for our program. But really, how cool is it? I mean, if Arizona beats Alabama this week, they might be number 1 in the country, when we play them, and I think that would be awesome, and to go out there and play against the best, right? And even if they're not number one, who cares? Number two, what's a big difference, right? But I think just to go out there and get the exposure for Abilene Christian University, it's not really about our program, it's about the university in a whole. To play maybe the number one team in the country at their place, and then to turn around right after that and to play on national television on TNT, just a couple nights later. It's just great exposure for ACU. And that's, men's basketball is a sport that athletically is kind of the front porch to the university at our level. It really is. It's where everybody sees. It's the one sport that can play on the national stage in terms of, with the big boys. And so we take pride in that, and we're going to go out there and compete. We're going to treat it like every other game, but at the same time, we know that it's great exposure for the university.
How much does this help your ultimate goal is to play in March. You're going to have to play those kinds of teams if you do. How much does this help playing those games now?
I think it's important. It's a measuring stick, right? Like, how much better do we need to get? We fully anticipate on trying to play those teams in March, right? So you go out here and you play a couple of these games, and then when you do it in March, you talk to your guys about that. Like, we've been here before. We've done this, And I think the way we approach these games always is why I think we've had some success in these games in the past, because we treat it like every other game, and we won't talk to our team about it. They know, who we're playing and what it is. But at the end of the day, we treat it like anybody else, and we go out there and compete, and then hopefully we're seeing somebody like that again in March.
All of my questions were answered, but I want to talk about my fellow Puerto Rican brother, Yanni, man.
Yeah.
Got, 13 points, no turnovers. What have you seen how did you recruit a guy from Puerto Rico, and what have you seen from him, just as a basketball player and as a person?
Yeah, Yanni's story is kind of crazy. I actually recruited Yanni. As a head coach, you're not the lead recruiter on a lot of kids, but, with Yanni, we needed a player kind of late, and I knew his coach from the NBA Academy in Latin America, and from our Costa Rica trip 12 years ago, right, that we took. And so and I trusted him and his evaluation of Yanni, obviously, and the character and all that, and everything he told me was absolutely true. And Yanni is what you want to see in college basketball that we don't see anymore. It's a kid who came in as a freshman and went through that roller coaster ride of a freshman year that I tell every one of our freshmen you're going to go through, whether you think you're going to or not. And he handled that. And then as a sophomore, got a little bit better and played a little bit more. I think he played about 27, 28% of our possessions as a sophomore, which is typical, which is normal. And he never complained. He never griped. He just kept working, kept grinding, kept doing things on his own, asking what he could do to get better. And now he's out there playing 70% of our possessions, just like that as a junior, and having success doing it. Without Yanni, we wouldn't be where we are right now at 7-3. We wouldn't have won 4 out of our last 5. He's a guy I trust. I want him on the floor. And he is a perfect example for our younger guys right now to see what can happen if you just stay the course. You don't complain, you don't cry about what I'm not getting, and you just focus on how to get where I want to go. So proud of Yanni, man, and I have full confidence he's going to have a great year.
Those who stay will be champions. Julie Goodenough.
Yep.
What you've observed from this team, the great things that you mentioned, through 10 games, what are some other observations that you've made?
Well, I think it's a really connected group. You know what I mean? And I think it's one of the reasons we've seen some success is that these guys truly are cheering for one another. I have had a different starting lineup every single game. We have not had one game with the exact same starting lineup yet. And so, and I told them before the season started, look, and I'm sure we're going to have the same starting lineup at some point. But I said, man, you earn that right based on the last game and the practices in between. And it doesn't mean everybody practices hard, but how do you perform and how well are you, progressing? And so, I think that is actually kind of it wasn't our intention, but I think it's we've had enough games now. The guys believe me, when it comes to that. And so they know that no matter what, if they don't play much today or they don't start today, they still have a chance tomorrow. And they support one another probably better than any team, even our championship teams. I mean, those guys were great, but these guys really have each other's back and really are supporting one another. We show clips after every single game of our bench to the team. And the support that they're getting from other guys, and it's crazy. There's guys that have started the other night that had games where they only played 4 or 5 minutes earlier this year, and so I just think that's the biggest thing with this group is how connected and supportive they are of each other.
How the heck does a been a consistent starting lineup through
Yeah.
10 games.
I think some of that is a credit to the young men in that locker room. They're all bought in, and we've talked about it. Like, we've done a lot of things here in my 13 years here, but the one thing that we've never done is won a regular season title. We should have. COVID took that away from us with some crazy point system, but that's for another day. But we have not won a regular season title, and these guys are focused on that. And I think it's important to them, and that's what we're shooting for. Maybe we get it, maybe we don't, but that's our goal, right? And we're not scared to talk about that. And so that's not going to be an easy task, but they know that they have to be together. And we can't have all those other issues. And I think these guys are really bought in. And I think another credit goes to my staff. Those guys work really hard behind the scenes with these guys. And they work with them outside of practice. They meet with them outside of practice. We have as good of a staff as any mid-major program in the country right now, in my opinion. These guys, the staff is bought in as well.
Man, shout out Coach Carlson over there too. How do these players balance finals week this week with next week, the opportunity they have with 2 top 10 basketball players?
I think it really helps that we're coming off 2 wins. I was worried going into last week because if that didn't go well for us, the big task we have staring down at us. But I think coming off of a good week, having some success takes a little bit of the pressure off, and it allows me to kind of pull back a little bit practice-wise so they can focus on their academics. But, and then, for the first time, we're not playing on Saturday or Friday right after finals. They're going to have a couple days. And so I think that's the biggest thing is these early, even though we're practicing the next couple days, we can really focus academically, But the guys we have here are all good students. We don't have any poor students in here. All these guys did come here to get a degree, and I think that matters too.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach Roman.
All right, Coach, obviously easy to see Yanni with the turnovers and the points, but defensively he's been so good. What have you seen from him on that side?
That's funny. I was just crushing him last night at study hall about how bad he's been defensively. No, he has actually been great. And I think I give him a hard time because he was not great, right? His first 2 years here. And so I constantly, every day, tell him how bad he is defensively just to kind of, rib him a little bit. But he has done a great job of helping us stay in front of the ball. That's something he couldn't do in the past. And I think he's learned, right? He's starting to understand angles, and it's not just about, like, am I better than this guy? There really is a science to it, and I think he's really bought into that, and he's learned. And again, it comes back to, I think, just experience, right? But the most important thing I think Yanni has is confidence, and he cares about being a good defender, right? And I've told him for 2 years, man, if you'll just defend, you'll be able to stay on the floor, and then the offense will come, man. And I think he believes that now. And there's, you can miss a couple shots, and as long as you're on the floor, eventually they're going to go in. And so, and he's been a real leader for us defensively. He talks to the other guys. He helps the younger guys. And so super proud of Yanni for how he's played defensively.
JV, some really early scoring in that New Mexico State game. Not always his thing, but what was he able to give the offense early?
Who?
Depends on.
Oh, I got you. Okay. We used to have a player named JV. So, but no, Joseph Van Zant's our anchor, dude. He's our anchor. He plays as hard as any player I've ever coached. I think 27 years maybe. I don't know. I've been doing this long enough. I don't know how long. But I don't know if I've coached a player that plays harder than Joseph Van Zant. He is 100% all the time. Sometimes that gets him in trouble, but man, we talked before this year that he just needed to be a leader, coming off the injury, not worry about anything else, but just being that anchor. And he has taken that and ran with it. And he's just like Yanni, he's a leader in the locker room and in practice. I'm trying to find creative ways to give him a little bit of a break every now and then outside of games because he goes so hard, and I have such a hard time taking him out. I worry about our team when he's not on the floor defensively. So, but yeah, he's truly the anchor to everything we do.
And then Rich Smith, he's come off the bench the last couple of games. You talked about you wanted to see him lead the team. What have you seen from him in a smaller role per se,
Yeah.
still having an impact and changing momentum?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he's not starting again really soon. But again, going back to the philosophy that I came into this year with, you have to earn the right. You don't just get to do that because you've been here or because you've done it before. And to Rich's credit, he's handled it. I don't think a year ago he would have handled it. And he's handled it, which is why he's gotten in the games. I think these have been 2 of his best games that he's played all season and when he didn't start. And so we need Rich to be on that floor as much as possible. But I don't think he performed well in Florida, and I challenged him, and I think he took that challenge and accepted it. And I'm super proud of him for that.
And then that New Mexico State game, really physical team, really tough team. We talked about that before, but you guys controlled and dictated that game. Even when there were those lulls, you got it right back. What does that say about the growth and the mindset of this team?
I think a few times this year, I think if you go back a year ago where we struggled was when guys punched us, man, we never counterpunched. We would play great. If we started great, we were going to be good. But when guys made runs, we kind of shut down a little bit. We've had multiple lulls, I guess, in games this year where teams have made runs because that's the game, right? It's a game of runs, and we've handled it. We've been sitting in our timeouts, guys. We're good. That's their run. I haven't had to do a lot of the talking. Guys like Joseph and Zant, Yanni, they're the ones that have talked about it. We're fine. Settle in. And that happened at Pepperdine last week. It happened at New Mexico State the other night. It happened when we played Omaha. I've seen it happen all year. And so that gives me a lot of confidence with this group that they can face adversity, and come through it.
And then, what does it say about your guard group? Sebo playing really good defense, Yanni playing good defense. What does that say about going into the WAC play when you've got really good guard play and really good backcourt?
Yeah, we still have room to get better, of course, but we're progressing, and I think that one guy that doesn't get mentioned right now, but I think that we're going to see big things from, as the year progresses, is Christian Alston as well. He helps us rebounding. He helps us. He's one guy that gets out in passing lanes. He didn't a year ago, but he does now. He's been in the program, and he's got it. He's had a tough little run the last few games, but man, I have full confidence in Christian as well, as long as he continues to work. But all of that entire group has made it really hard for me to figure out who to play. But that's a good problem to have, especially if they're handling it the way we talked about, right? And they're supporting one another. As long as it stays that way, I like our guards, man. I think that's the difference with this team and maybe the teams from the last couple of years is that we have a really good guard core.
And then, Christian Alston, you got on there. Him and Joseph Scott, really high moments, really low moments this season. What have you seen from them mentally, but then also just in their growth?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. It's growth. Joey's a first-year player. Christian's just a sophomore. And sometimes you go through these ups and downs, right? And so far, so good. They're working through them. We don't beat New Mexico State without Joseph Scott. They had 10 offensive rebounds in the first half. They had 3 in the second, and that's Joseph Scott all day long, right? And so, and Christian, when he was in there. Christian helped us, even though the numbers don't show it. If you go back and watch film, he kept a couple guys off the glass so somebody else could get the rebound. And so both those guys, man, are going to be a big part of what we do this year. It's just going to be, again, how quickly do they settle in and play with confidence.
And Braden Hubbard, a really good game, fouled out, had a technical. Is that something you'd rather kind of see and coach out this point in the season versus mid-February?
Braden's our dude, man, right? We know that. And I said it the other night, I think Braden's biggest problem right now is realizing that he's on the top of the scouting report. And he's got guys are going to come at him now where they didn't go at him last year. And they're going to try to get in his head, and they're going to try to do some of these things. He has not handled that well so far. There's been 3 or 4 episodes this year where I've had to kind of take him out of the game to calm him down a little bit. And we can't win conference games that way. And he knows that, and it's something he's working on. But, man, Braden's our dude one way or the other. Everybody knows it. We know it. Even not playing well, in my opinion, he's playing pretty well. So, yeah, looking for big things. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you, man.
Brette Tanner, what is your opinion on the college football